Do you still think Elizabeth II was just a gentle nation's grandmother, spending her whole life waving from balconies and walking corgis? Dead wrong. That might be the greatest deception in modern history, because behind that measured smile was not an old woman, but a leader of a bloodline forged in fire and blood for 700 years. When the death knell rang 70 times at Windsor, the whole world mourned a queen. But in the darkest corners of Malta and within damp crypts, people shuddered and whispered another name: Regina Templi, Queen of the Holy Temple. Textbooks tell you that the Knights Templar were burned alive and wiped out in 1307. Rubbish. They didn't die. They just changed clothes. From blood-stained swords in Jerusalem to the Red Cross symbol on Elizabeth's coronation robe, it all seems to be an invisible chain that was never broken. Was the mysterious trip to Malta in 1947, the sealed letter in a ruined crypt, and the absolute silence throughout 70 years of reign just a coincidence? Or was Elizabeth not merely the ruler of England, but the final gatekeeper for a terrible secret that her lineage swore to protect with their lives? A secret that lies not beneath the throne, but in the blood. Welcome back, you curious and brave souls, to Dark History. I am Zorro. Put those fairy tales aside. Today, we will tear down the royal velvet curtain to see, ultimately, what is truly lurking beneath that diamond-studded crown. Let me tell you an uncomfortable truth. Tears often blur one's vision. While the world was busy weeping in the dusty, dark corners of secret archives, or in the dying breath of an old priest in Malta, an ancient fear was coming back to life. They didn't ask, "Will the monarchy survive?" No, their question was much more chilling. Is she the last one? The last of what? Not of the House of Windsor, but of something far older, bloodier, born in fire and nurtured by absolute silence for 7 centuries. Imagine Windsor at night, not the splendor you see on TV. I'm talking about the real Windsor, a labyrinth of stone and shadows. Beneath the red velvet carpets, there are corridors carved long before the name Elizabeth was known to the world. There, deep underground, a solitary torch illuminates a damp wall. And what do you see? A cross. Not the ordinary cross of Jesus, but a cross that was once bright red with blood, now faded with sharp edges. Behind it is a sealed door. Have you ever wondered why a royal lineage is so obsessed with secrecy? Never complain, never explain. That was Elizabeth's motto. People call it royal dignity. I call it the survival skill of a temple guardian. What do your history textbooks say? That on Friday the 13th, 1307, the King of France arrested and burned the Knights Templar alive, wiping them off the face of the earth. Boom. End of story. How naive. Do you really think the most powerful banking and military organization in Europe at that time would let itself be destroyed so easily? No. Ghosts don't die, my friend. They simply change clothes. The theory I'm about to throw in your face will drive mainstream historians crazy. The surviving knights didn't disappear. They ran north. They dissolved into the British aristocracy. They buried relics, changed surnames, and passed down their mission through the blood. And that blood, after hundreds of years winding through marriages and political calculations, finally flowed in the veins of the House of Windsor. If these whispers are true, then Elizabeth was not just a queen. She was a shell, a perfect camouflage of flesh and bone to hide Christianity's greatest secret. You don't believe me? Fine. Look at what she wore. The Order of the Garter, England's most noble order of knighthood. Look at its damn motto, Honi soit qui mal y pense. Roughly translated, shame on him who thinks evil of it. Why shame? Why be so fiercely defensive right in your own slogan? Unless they are hiding something that, if revealed, would turn the world upside down. A genius distraction. Look closer at Elizabeth's rituals. Roses that are symmetric to a freakish degree. Red crosses embroidered on white backgrounds. Whose signature symbol is that, do you know? It is the Templars. They are right there, right before your eyes on TV, at coronations, at royal weddings. No one explains, no one questions. They just exist. Like a code shouted in the middle of a square that no one understands, except those on the inside. And this is where the story gets chilling. There is a name, a title that never appears in the press, yet haunts the files of occult researchers. Regina Templi, Queen of the Temple. It first appeared in a coded prayer in 15th century Scotland. Many think it was poetry, but skeptics like me smell a conspiracy. This title is only whispered to female monarchs who possess a direct bloodline from those protected by the temple. Eleanor of Aquitaine, Mary, Queen of Scots, and Elizabeth II. Try to imagine that burden. You reign for 70 years, not to protect borders or the economy, but to guard an invisible crypt. You must be silent, because one slip of the tongue could break a blood oath that has existed for 700 years. Did she know? Or did she just act on instinct? Perhaps Elizabeth's famous composure wasn't a personality trait. It was the steel discipline of a warrior trained to keep secrets even when the world collapsed around her. But the proof, Zorro? Where is the proof? Let's go back in time to 1947. Malta, the fortress island of the Knights Hospitaller, brothers or perhaps usurpers of the Templars. Elizabeth was not yet queen then. She was just a young princess, deeply in love with the naval officer Philip. The island was devastated after World War II. The story goes that a British officer, while supervising the repair of a crypt collapsed by bombing, found a sealed envelope stuck between charred rocks. Its content was never fully released. Of course not. MI6 isn't stupid. But a fragment of it leaked out through private letters decades later. It wrote of a woman. She who will protect the temple without sword or spear, she whose crown conceals an invisible cross. Elizabeth was in Malta. A prophecy appeared. A coincidence? Or was it an underground handover ritual before she officially put on the crown of the British Empire? The crown has been passed to Charles, but the whisper remains. Regina Templi. What would you do if you discovered your grandmother, the gentle woman who waved to the crowds, was actually the grand elder of the most dangerous secret society in human history? Would you scream it to the world, or would you shut your mouth, put on the crown, and continue the game? The queen has passed, but the Templar blood never sleeps. Welcome to Jerusalem 1119. There are no tea and biscuits here, only dust, blood, and fanatics. A group of 9 dirt-poor French knights, and I emphasize dirt-poor to the point that their original symbol was 2 men riding 1 horse, went to meet the King of Jerusalem. They said, "Sire, we want to protect the pilgrims." And what did the king do? He let them stay right on the foundations of the Temple of Solomon. Yes, the legendary temple in the Bible, the most expensive piece of real estate in the world at that time. Overly generous, right? Or were there conditions attached? What do you think those 9 men did all day? Protect pilgrims? With 9 people? Don't make me laugh. They were busy doing something else. They dug. For the first 9 years, they dug beneath the temple ruins like frenzied moles. And history whispers that they found something. Not gold. Gold is too ordinary. What they found beneath the bedrock of Jerusalem was 1,000,000,000 times more dangerous than gold. Some say it was the Ark of the Covenant, God's weapon of mass destruction. Others say it was the Holy Grail. But the coldest, most skeptical heads, like yours and mine, think differently. They found proof of the bloodline, genealogical documents that could prove or disprove the legitimacy of every king in Europe. Think about it. If you hold in your hands the darkest secret of Jesus or the kings, you don't need an army. You have leverage. And boom. Overnight, from 9 knights hitchhiking on horses, the Knights Templar became the wealthiest organization on the planet. They weren't just warriors. They became the world's first bankers. You want to go on a crusade but are afraid of being robbed? Easy. Deposit gold with the Templars in London, get a receipt, and withdraw cash in Jerusalem. They invented credit cards and traveler's checks 800 years before American Express was born. Kings borrowed money from them to fight wars. The Pope exempted them from taxes. They owned islands, castles, private fleets. They were a state within states. No borders, no laws could touch them. And this is where England enters the game. Look at England. The relationship between the British royal family and the Templars was not just a business partnership, it was a blood oath brotherhood. The Plantagenets, ancient ancestors of the British royals, were extremely close to the Temple. King John, that nasty king in the Robin Hood movies, even sent all his jewelry and crown to the Templar headquarters in London for safekeeping when his throne was shaky. Do you give your home safe key to a stranger? No. You only give it to someone you trust implicitly, or someone who has dirt on you. When kings needed divine right to rule over the commoners, the Templars were the ones selling that certificate. They held the truth about the sacred bloodline. Therefore, a chilling question arises. When all of Europe started turning its back on the Templars out of jealousy for their wealth, did England have any reason to protect them? The answer lies right in the symbols Elizabeth II cherished all her life. The rose. You think it's beautiful? To the Templars, the rose, sub rosa, means under the rose, that is, secret. What is said under the rose must stay under the rose. Even in death, one must not open their mouth. When the King of France sharpened his knife waiting for the day of the purge, England, under the rule of kings indebted to the Templars for both money and spiritual power, became a perfect plan B, a safe haven. Elizabeth did not create these symbols. She inherited them. But inherited from whom? From kings who signed secret treaties in the shadows with the Knights Templar? Extreme wealth leads to extreme jealousy. The year 1307 was approaching. King Philip of France was broke, and he looked at the Templar gold vault like a starving wolf looking at fresh meat. He wanted money. He wanted to clear his debts. But more importantly, he feared their power. The storm was about to hit, a firestorm that would consume all of Europe. But remember this, when your house is on fire, you don't burn with it if you are wise. You pack up your most precious things, children, secrets, and bloodlines, and run out the back door. That back door led straight to England. And on that fateful night when torches lit up Paris, Templar ships quietly left the port of La Rochelle. Where did they go? What did they carry? The answer will make you shudder in the next part. The King of France thought he had won, but he forgot one thing. You can kill a knight, but you cannot kill an idea, especially when that idea is setting sail toward the fog of the British Isles. King Philip IV of France, also known as Philip the Fair, launched the biggest ambush in medieval history. Orders were sent out in letters sealed with red wax to every corner of France. Arrest them all. No warning, no subpoena. Knights who had once conquered Jerusalem, who had once made Saladin tremble, were now dragged out of bed in their pajamas, chained like dogs, thrown into the dark dungeons that their own money had built. What did Philip accuse them of? Heresy, spitting on the cross, kissing each other's buttocks, worshipping a cat's head. Ridiculous. The real reason? Philip owed them money, a lot of money, and the fastest way to clear debt is to kill the creditor. A brutal economics lesson, isn't it? But Philip made a fatal mistake. He underestimated the power of hatred. Year 1314. 7 years after that fateful night, Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Order of the Temple, was dragged to the Ile de la Cité in the middle of the Seine River. They tied him to a stake. They lit the fire. But they didn't use a big fire to kill him instantly. Oh no, the medieval times were much more cruel than that. They used a small fire, a slow-burning fire, to roast him gradually. And in extreme agony, as his flesh was melting, Molay did not beg. He screamed a curse that echoed through 7 centuries. Pope Clement, King Philip, within a year, I summon you before the tribunal of God. Guess what? Both of the most powerful men in Europe died sudden deaths within less than a year. Coincidence? Or was that the final power of a betrayed bloodline? The Order of the Temple didn't just have money. They had something else. Philip captured the castles. He caught the men, but he went mad over one thing. Where is the treasure? He ransacked every dungeon. Empty. No gold, no relics, no Ark of the Covenant. Chronicles whisper about La Rochelle, a seaport in western France. On the night before the arrest order was executed, the Templar fleet quietly weighed anchor. Dozens of ships loaded with heavy crates disappeared into the Atlantic mist. Where did they go? Some say Portugal, where they changed their name to the Order of Christ. Old wine in a new bottle. But those carrying the darkest secrets, they went north, to a wild land where the Pope's laws had no value. Scotland. Scotland at that time was ruled by Robert the Bruce, a king who had also been excommunicated by the Pope. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Bruce opened his arms wide to welcome the exiled knights. Legend has it that in the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314 against the English army, a mysterious cavalry unit appeared out of nowhere, rushing in to save the Scots. They bore the Red Cross flag. They fought like demons. That was the Templars, their last public appearance before they permanently retreated into the shadows. And when peace was restored, they didn't go home, because they no longer had a home. What did they do? They married. This is the key to everything, folks. They didn't build fortresses anymore. They built genealogies. The Sinclair clan, the De Vere clan, the most powerful aristocratic names. They blended their cursed blood into these families. Look at Rosslyn Chapel of the Sinclair family. It was built in the 15th century, full of Templar symbols, stars, roses, ears of corn, a plant only found in America, even though Columbus hadn't been born yet. Proof the Templar fleet reached America first. These families became the new guardians. They protected the secret not with swords, but with silence and political influence. And that blood just kept flowing, from Scotland down to England, from Sinclair to Stuart, from Stuart to Hanover, and finally, it flowed to Windsor. In 1307, the Order of the Temple was dissolved. In 1348, King Edward III of England founded the Order of the Garter. Only 40 years later, same knightly structure, same secret oaths, same royal patronage. Is it a coincidence? Or was the Order of the Garter the lifeboat to bring the remnants of the Templars straight into the center of British power legally? Elizabeth II was the head of the Order of the Garter. She wore that star on her chest. She knelt on carpets embroidered with roses. When she did that, she wasn't just a queen. She was the living embodiment of a great survival. She was proof that King Philip had failed. The fire of 1314 could not consume them. It only smelted them into a different metal, harder, colder, and hiding beneath a diamond crown. So, if Elizabeth was the holder of the final key, then when she is gone, where will that secret go? June 2nd, 1953. Millions of people were glued to tiny black and white TV sets to watch the 27-year-old Princess Elizabeth become queen. It was the biggest live television event in human history up to that point. Everything was on display. The long velvet robe, the crown heavy with gemstones, the elderly bishops in magnificent vestments. But there was one moment, just a single moment, that cameras were forbidden to film. Why? Look at that canopy, held up by 4 Knights of the Order of the Garter, the spiritual descendants of the Templars we talked about in the previous part. They shielded her from the public eye, from camera lenses. Beneath that canopy, Elizabeth stripped off the royal robe, wearing only a simple white linen dress. She knelt down, and the Archbishop of Canterbury performed the most ancient, most important ritual, the anointing. People say this is too sacred for commoners to see, but I say that is when the political theater stops and the initiation ritual begins. The holy oil. You think it's olive oil bought at the supermarket? Number. Its formula is more secret than the Coca-Cola recipe. It contains essence of orange blossom, rose, musk, ambergris, and most importantly, original ingredients brought back from the Holy Land, from Jerusalem. When the oil touched Elizabeth's forehead, chest, and hands, she was not just anointed Queen of England, she was anointed Christus Domini, the anointed of the Lord. A title that sounds ordinary to Christians, but to the Templars, those who worship bloodlines and divine succession, this was the moment of ultimate power transfer. She became a living vessel, a Holy Grail in flesh and blood. She was no longer Elizabeth Windsor. In that moment, she became Regina Templi, Queen of the Temple. And once you have seen it, you cannot unsee it. The signs are everywhere. Look at the flag flying on every British government building, a red cross on a white background. We call it St. George's Cross. But 200 years before St. George became the patron saint of England, whose battle flag was it? The Knights Templar. Look at the roses. The white rose of the House of York, the red rose of the House of Lancaster, united into the Tudor rose. Beautiful, romantic. But in occult language, the rose symbolizes silence, sub rosa. A blooming rose conceals the inner core, just as this dynasty conceals its true origin, and the 5-pointed stars, pentagrams, carved on the ceiling of Windsor Chapel. That is sacred geometry, a symbol of wisdom passed down through secret societies, from Pythagoras to the Templars, and now the British royal family. It all lies right before your eyes. They don't hide it. They just leave it in the most visible place because they know the crowd will never ask questions. 70 years of reign. Think about that number. 7 decades she sat on the throne, witnessing the world change from radio to internet, from Cold War to digital age. Prime ministers came and went, empires collapsed, but she remained there, silent, steadfast, a loyal temple guardian. Did she know what she was protecting? Maybe she knew it all, that the blood flowing in her carried the echoes of knights burned alive in 1314, that her crown was the lid covering a secret crypt of history. Or maybe she was just a perfect actor in a play where the script was written 700 years ago by faceless figures. The guardians, the aristocratic families standing behind the velvet curtain. The queen has passed. Charles has ascended the throne. The crown has been transferred. But what about the secret? In a world where history is written by the victors, legends are buried under the dust of time. Your attention is the only torch remaining. The writer? Wilfred Vincent, a retired Anglican bishop. The recipient? Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth II's grandmother. Imagine this scene, an old man kneeling in prayer within the ruins of a dilapidated Templar chapel in Wiltshire, not a place you'd choose for a weekend stroll. Vincent wrote that amidst that rubble he experienced a vision. He saw a great woman. She stood proudly between two giant pillars of fire, bearing the mark of the cross. He called it a symbol for England's divine future, a queen who would rise from the ashes of war to protect a hidden truth. At the time, people laughed at him. Senile old man, they said. Too much poetry, they claimed. But look a little closer. That chapel he mentioned? It had been destroyed by the Reformation long ago, but the remaining stones do not lie. They contain strange carvings, 8-pointed stars, roses with 13 petals, and most chilling of all, angels holding swords with their eyes closed. Sound familiar? If you are a fan of conspiracy theories, you will recognize it immediately. These images match perfectly with Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland and Templar lairs in France. In these places, stone is not just stone. It echoes the silence. It is not evidence in court, I agree. But it is a shadow, a presence behind the velvet curtain. And then, we fast forward to 1947. Meet Elizabeth. She wasn't queen yet. She was just 21, young, beautiful, and on a trip the royals called a normal holiday to Malta, accompanying her fiancé, Prince Philip. But normal is a very luxurious word for this clan. While Philip was busy with his role as a naval officer, what did Elizabeth do? She didn't go shopping. She didn't go to the beach. Local historians, curious and nosy people, noted that she visited the ruins of the Chapel of Our Lady of Victory. Why this place? Because it was built by the Knights of St. John, the spiritual heirs and perhaps the asset heirs of the Templars after the massacre. There is a never-published diary of a Maltese priest who guided Elizabeth on her tour that day. He described a moment that makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Elizabeth stopped in front of a specific stone relief. It depicted a knight placing a crown on a woman's head. Beneath them was a crescent moon. The priest wrote, "She stared for a long time. When I was about to open my mouth to explain the art history, she signaled for me to be silent. Absolute silence. Her fingers traced the shape of the sword on the stone relief." What do you think flashed through her mind at that moment? The curiosity of a tourist, or a realization? Like when you see an old family photo and realize your nose looks exactly like your great-grandfather's. The story doesn't stop there. Still in this chapel, decades later, people found a wooden box hidden behind the altar. Inside was an old manuscript, crumbling from water and time. Scholars salvaged a few lines of Latin, And oh boy, its content is so interesting. The bloodline continues. The crown is her shield, the secret, her burden. Carbon dating placed this parchment in the 17th century, under the reign of King James II. That was the time when the British Monarchy began to intertwine tightly with Templar mythology and Freemasonry like a snake coiling around a staff. No official document acknowledges this, of course not, but string it together. A prophetic letter about a queen from the ashes, a secret visit to the Knights' sanctuary, a young queen touching a sword on stone, and a manuscript confirming the bloodline continues. Is this a coincidence? Or did Elizabeth, right from the age of 21, know she wasn't just inheriting a throne, but inheriting a mission? A mission that forced her to remain silent even when the stone walls around her were screaming the truth. But that is only the beginning. If you think Malta is strange, wait until I take you to Windsor Castle, where knightly symbols are not just for decoration, but are maps leading to buried treasure or skeletons in the closet. Hold on to your seats. We have only just stepped through the first door. If you think Queen Elizabeth was merely someone who cut ribbons at hospital openings, then you have missed one of the greatest plays in history. Let's talk about the Order of the Garter. This is the most exclusive club in England, established in 1348. Only the king, the queen, and 24 chosen knights. Sounds like a fancy dinner party, doesn't it? But look closely at its structure. Membership is limited. Rituals are secret. Absolute loyalty to the supreme head, the king or queen. Do you know who else operated exactly like that? That's right, the Knights Templar. And coincidentally, the Order of the Garter was founded just a few decades after the Templars were wiped out by the church. It's as if someone changed the pub sign but kept serving the same old beer. All Garter rituals take place at St. George's Chapel, right inside Windsor Castle. Elizabeth was the head of this order. She led the processions in velvet robes and plumed hats. But forget those costumes. Look at the walls. Hundreds of heraldic banners hang along the chapel ceiling. Most people just see lions, eagles, boring stuff. But if you know what you are looking for, you will see things that send a chill down your spine. Crossed swords, roses nestled within stars, burning towers. These are not the random designs of a drunk medieval painter. This is a language. These symbols have suspiciously ancient origins, closely linked to Templar legend. We are talking about a hidden map. When you piece these fragments together, a queen visiting Templar ruins before ascending the throne, a coronation full of pagan symbols older than Christianity itself, and now her position as the head of a knightly order that is a carbon copy of the Templars. It doesn't scream, "I am Templar." No, it whispers. It whispers in the stone, in the silk, and in the silence of those who know. But if Windsor is too flashy for you to believe, let me take you to a darker place, a place where secrets are not hung on walls, but buried underground. Welcome to Hertfordshire, specifically the ruins of Temple Dinsley. The name says it all, doesn't it? Temple. This used to be a Templar headquarters. After the order was suppressed, the land was divided up for the nobility. Over centuries, people built villas on it, tore them down, rebuilt them, renamed them. Today, from the outside, it has nothing to do with holy Crusader knights, except for the basement. Beneath the foundation of the modern architecture is a small room, low ceiling, walls lined with red chalk. The air there is thick, heavy. In the center of the floor is a brick circle, 8 bricks surrounding a worn star. Some say it is the Seal of Solomon, others say it is a compass rose. But the most interesting thing happened in 1936. Repair workers pried up the center brick. And what did they find? A pot of gold? No. A curse? Close enough. They found a bronze medallion. The image on it was extremely unsettling. A crowned rose pierced by a sword. Think about it. The rose is the symbol of secrecy, sub rosa. The sword is the symbol of protection or martyrdom. The crown is royalty. Royalty protects the secret to the death, or the secret kills the monarchy. This medallion was never publicly displayed. A local historian snapped a photo of it before it was confiscated by the Ministry of Works and vanished into thin air. But the creepiest detail wasn't the image. It was the number faintly engraved on the edge of the medallion. 1687. A boring year. No major wars, no kings beheaded. Why carve this year into a Templar relic? Unless you know who was there in 1687. Princess Anne, the one who would later become the great Queen Anne. In that year, Anne suffered a mysterious illness that royal doctors couldn't fix. She wasn't in London. She was sent to the countryside to recuperate. And where did she stay? Right at this Temple Dinsley estate, according to a preserved letters again. Her health recovered miraculously as soon as she arrived. But what was the price? Her father confessor recorded that Anne began talking deliriously in her sleep. She spoke of red stars and buried guardians. The 1687 medallion was found right beneath her feet. Do you believe in coincidences? I don't. Anne's recovery wasn't a medical miracle. It might have been a ritual. The medallion wasn't drop jewelry. It was a mark. A certification. Perhaps she wasn't just recovering. She was remembering. She was being awakened. And if Queen Anne was awakened at a Templar site in the 17th century, did that blood, that memory, pass down to Elizabeth? The answer might lie further north, where the fog is thicker and secrets are protected by blood, not bronze medallions. We are going to Scotland, where a military code in World War II accidentally revealed the true name of this game. If you are a fan of the Da Vinci Code, you certainly know the name Rosslyn. Rosslyn Chapel. The place rumored to hold the Holy Grail. Hollywood turned it into a Disneyland for treasure hunters. But forget Tom Hanks. The truth at Rosslyn is darker and much more military. The Sinclair clan, the builders of Rosslyn, have guarded this place with blood and silence for centuries. In the late 1800s, during a restoration, they found a secret room. What did Earl Sinclair do? Throw a celebration party? Call the press? Number. He ordered it sealed immediately. He said, "It is not yet the time for illumination." Not yet the time? Sounds like a line from a villain in a Bond movie, right? But this is historical fact, and that time seems to have come closer during World War II. In the 1940s, British intelligence intercepted an encrypted military message. It referenced something called the Rosslyn Protocol. Pay close attention to this. Mainstream historians, those lazy people sitting in ivory towers, brushed it off. They said, "Oh, must be a misspelling of Rosslyn." Mistake. In military code, precision is life. Rosslyn is a place name. But Rosslyn? That is a name. A feminine name. A lineage traced in blood. What did that message say? Rosslyn Protocol, relic transfer, confirmed. Transfer to whom? Look at King George VI, Queen Elizabeth's father. In that same decade, while Nazi bombs were falling on London, King George VI suddenly decided to go hunting. He went to Scotland. He stayed near Rosslyn for 3 full days. No press, no diplomatic parties, no photos of him holding a hunting rifle. He only brought a small group of advisors and clergy. Clergy going hunting? Were they planning to pray for the deer? Locals, people with eyes and ears sharper than radar, recalled strange things. Light emanating from the chapel at sacred hours, carriages completely covered, a group of people in robes walking the grounds like ghosts. If this was just a prayer ritual for peace, why be as sneaky as smugglers? And the most important question, why only 4 years after that mysterious trip was Elizabeth herself, then a young princess, taken to this exact location? Right before her wedding? It looks like a handover. A graduation ceremony where no one is allowed to clap. Rosslyn is not a place. Perhaps it is the code name for the woman who would shoulder the legacy. But the stones in Scotland only whisper. Documents. Documents can scream. We return to Windsor Castle. Year 2002. During the renovation of the royal apartments, carpenters pried open a false wall panel. Behind it wasn't dead rats or old wiring. It was a sealed envelope covered in 300 years of dust. Date, 1710. On it was the insignia of the Order of the Garter. Recipient, to the reigning one. Just that simple. No name. Whoever was sitting on the throne when finding it, this letter was for them. Inside was a piece of parchment and a thin strip of silk. Embroidered on the silk were 3 things: a rose, a sword, a crescent moon. Sound familiar? It's exactly what Elizabeth saw in Malta. It's exactly like the medallion found at Temple Dinsley. The text inside the parchment was written in an Old English, mixed with Latin grammar. The ink had faded, but the fervor in the handwriting still burned. An archivist managed to read one line before it was sealed away forever. Listen carefully to this sentence. She shall guard the truth in silence even when the stars fall. Even when the stars fall. That is not a birthday wish. That is a command, a prophecy, a curse. This language bears a startling resemblance to the Templar catechisms. In their world, truth is not something taught in school. Truth is a physical burden. It is carried. It is protected. And who is the she in that sentence? Queen Anne in 1710, or an eternal archetype, a role that every queen must step into? Elizabeth didn't just inherit a diamond-studded crown. She inherited a silence stretching from Jerusalem through Scotland to Windsor. But there is one final place, the least known place, yet the most haunting. A place where Elizabeth did not go as a queen, but as a woman in mourning clothes. That place has no gold or vermilion, only moss and the sound of Welsh waves crashing against cliffs. That place is called the Silent Chapel. And what happened there will make you question everything you ever knew about that little woman wearing the crown. Welcome to the west coast of Wales. Here, amidst the screaming of the ocean, lies a ruin that locals call by a whispered name, the Silent Chapel. Officially, it has no name. On tourist maps, it doesn't exist. The roof collapsed a century ago. But the altar, its altar still stands, defying time and moss. If you brush away that moss, you will see a symbol that makes mainstream historians scratch their heads. A vertical sword piercing a blooming rose, sandwiched between 2 six-pointed stars. It is sacred, certainly, but it is strangely feminine. It wasn't built for a conquering king. It was built for a guardian, a woman who doesn't protect borders, but protects memory. And this is where the story gets chilling. Folklore in this tiny fishing village tells of a mysterious woman. Once a year, always in spring, she would appear. No golden carriage, no bodyguards swarming around. She wore mourning black from head to toe. She sat at that cold stone altar for hours, not praying aloud, not weeping, just sitting there, alone, with the sea. Who was it? I have in my hands the diary of an elderly chapel caretaker, written in 1965. Listen to what he wrote. "She came again. That walk looks exactly like the Queen. Only this time, no soldiers. She left something beneath the rock before leaving." When people asked that old man decades later if it was Elizabeth II, he just took a drag from his pipe and said, "If it wasn't, then she has a twin sister the whole world has never heard of." You see, not all mysteries wear crowns. Some mysteries wear mourning clothes and carry a silence heavier than solid gold. This leads us to a darker theory, whispered in the closed corridors of Freemasonry: the Vigil of the Rose. Fragmented documents from the 17th century describe a secret ritual. Every generation, a woman in the noble bloodline is chosen, not to rule, but to remember. She is placed in a circle of salt and roses. The elders hand her a single object, sometimes a ring, sometimes a sword too small for fighting. No verbal instructions. The power of the ritual lies in the silence, in transmitting the burden from blood to blood. Did Elizabeth ever kneel in that salt circle? Royal biographers will say no, but of course they say no. You don't record deadly secrets in the daily schedule next to afternoon tea with the Prime Minister. This theory paints a completely different picture of the woman we call the Queen. We often saw her as cold, reserved, unpredictable. People call that royal demeanor, but I call it guardian discipline. Her silence was not emptiness. It was a commitment. She was born into privilege, but trained in awareness. She was the hidden queen in Templar legend, the protector of the sacred bloodline, the one never allowed to reveal true emotions, because emotion is the enemy of the secret. And sometimes, just sometimes, that velvet curtain is lifted a little bit. A private visit to a Templar cemetery in Devon that no one was supposed to know about. A massive but anonymous donation to the Rosslyn Chapel Restoration Fund. And a handwritten letter sent to the Grand Master of the Order of Malta on the exact 700th anniversary of the Templar Massacre. Those are not the actions of a tourist. Those are the actions of a family member remembering ancestors. Put it all together. From the bishop's letter in 1910 about a queen from the ashes, to the trembling finger of young Elizabeth on the relief in Malta, to the accidental symbols at Windsor Castle, and finally the woman in black sitting before the Welsh Sea. It is a map, but this map does not lead to treasure. It doesn't lead to a Golden Grail or the Ark of the Covenant. It leads to people. Perhaps the Order of the Temple never died. It simply changed shape, from knights in iron armor to nobles in velvet. And finally, it resided in the heart of a small woman. Elizabeth II may be gone, but the question is, to whom did she pass that burden? Who is the next person to wear black and sit at the silent chapel when spring returns? History is a circle, my friend, and in the shadows of those rocks, there are things that never sleep. You know, people often say, the truth will set you free, but they forget to mention the rest. The truth can also kill you, or at least bury you under tons of classified documents. You don't need to know the whole truth to feel the chill running down your spine when you hear its echo. Some legacies are not on black and white paper. They lurk in oaths sworn under flickering torchlight, in the sound of boot heels striking the dark corridors of castles that ordinary people are never allowed to enter. History never happens by accident. When a story disappears, trust me, it was assassinated intentionally or protected by a design so sophisticated that you see it every day without knowing. Today, we will talk about a ghost, the ghost of the Knights Templar, and the crazy but deadly seductive theory that their blood did not dissolve into the dust of Jerusalem, but is flowing right in the veins of one of the most powerful families in modern history, the British royal family. Look at this picture. What do you see? A respectable old lady in a colorful outfit? A boring traditional ritual? Look closer. This is the Order of the Garter, founded in 1348 by King Edward III. This is not a gentleman's club for afternoon tea. This is the highest order of knighthood in England. Members? Extremely limited. Prestige? Ultimate. But look at those symbols. The sword, the garter strap, the star. If you are a conspiracy junkie, or simply have observant eyes, you will see its geometry and imagery remind you of someone. That's right, the Templars, the ones who were wiped out just a few decades before the Garter was born. How coincidental, right? When one group of knights is burned alive in France, another group of knights springs up in England with almost perfectly copied rituals. Every year at St. George's Chapel, members of the order gather. Queen Elizabeth II, throughout her reign, was the head of this order. Every appointment was made by her own hand. Personal, private, no interference from Parliament or the Prime Minister. Why? If there is a modern continuation of the Templar network, a place to hide secrets right under the public's nose, then the Order of the Garter is the most perfect cover. It is too prominent to be suspected of being secret, but it is also too closed for anyone to see the core inside. But the Garter is not alone. We cannot talk about the Templars without mentioning their rumored spiritual children, the Freemasons. Mainstream historians will tell you, oh, Freemasons are just social clubs. They like doing charity and wearing aprons. How naive. Freemasonry worships sacred geometry. Their rituals are full of metaphors about the Temple of Solomon, yes, the very place the original Knights Templar were founded to protect. And guess who sits in the shadows of these lodges? Not strangers. Meet Prince Edward, Duke of Kent. Who is he? He is Queen Elizabeth II's first cousin, and he has also been the Grand Master of the United Grand Lodge of England for decades. Elizabeth was never a member. Of course not. The order forbids women, an archaic rule we will discuss later. But she was always there. She was present at ceremonies. She appointed her most trusted people to key positions. She was like a godmother, standing outside every membership list, yet holding the soul of the organization. This closeness is not accidental. It is patronage, or in other words, an alliance. But we need to go deeper, away from the flashing lights of the press, away from public handshakes. Let's step into the world of true secret societies. Names you might never have heard of or only glimpsed in cheap novels. The Rose Croix, the Order of the Secret Star, the Martinist tradition. These groups appeared in the 17th and 18th centuries like mushrooms after rain. All of them whispered the same story. They hold fragments of Templar wisdom, not gold and silver treasures, but knowledge. And the most interesting thing? In their rituals, they often invoke a figure, the Queen of Light, a guardian of the temple, a feminine lineage hidden within the great cycles of history. Listen closely to this. The queen who carries the sword she never draws. Sound familiar? The most powerful woman in the world, holding armies in her hand, but who spent her whole life using only silence and diplomatic smiles as weapons. Elizabeth II was not a warrior on the battlefield. She was a warrior of preservation. There are rumors, and I emphasize rumors because those who know are either dead or keeping their mouths very shut, that these secret societies operate under the subtle approval of the royal family. The names of high-ranking aristocrats appear on murky guest lists at mysterious events in Glastonbury, or the island of Malta. And this is where the story becomes personal. Let's talk about the man who always walked 2 steps behind the Queen, Prince Philip. His family bears the surname Mountbatten, a name anglicized from Battenberg to sound less German. But blood cannot change its name. Philip was famous as a man passionate, even obsessed with ancient civilizations, UFOs, and religion. In the 1960s, Philip made a trip. No press, no gun salutes, no public schedule. He went to Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland. If you don't know yet, Rosslyn is considered the Mecca for Holy Grail hunters and Templar treasure seekers. It is rumored that beneath that cold stone floor lies the final resting place of Christianity's greatest secrets. Philip went there with a small delegation. The visit was unannounced. The purpose? No one knows. Did he go to admire the architecture or to check the inventory? Why did the husband of the Queen of England have to sneakily visit a site considered the center of Templar conspiracy theories? The answer might lie in the very silence covering that trip. As I said, history does not exist by accident. And when the most powerful people in the world start caring about old ruins, you should start worrying. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the Templars never died. They just changed costumes. They shed blood-stained armor to put on exquisitely tailored suits, the velvet robes of the Garter, and hid themselves in the corridors of power at Windsor. But how did they maintain this secret over 700 years? How could a bloodline survive when both the church and the king wanted to exterminate it? The answer lies in a ruthless strategy, erasure to survive. And that is exactly what we will dissect in the next part. Don't take your eyes off the screen. Dead wrong. True power is not noisy. It doesn't need to scream. It lies in the arrangement. It lies in those standing right behind the throne, in the shadows, where camera lights never reach. We talked about Philip's secret trips, but one trip does not make a whole system. To protect a secret spanning 700 years, you don't need an army. You need librarians. You need archivists. You need people who know how to keep important doors permanently closed. Welcome to the machinery of silence. Look at the people surrounding Queen Elizabeth throughout her life. Advisors, deans of abbeys, experts in heraldry. Sounds boring, right? Tedious desk jobs. But that is the genius of this system. This is not an open conspiracy. No one sits at a round table laughing evilly. This is silent selection. Over decades, individuals, families tied to the theory of preserving the Templar bloodline have quietly occupied these positions. They don't rewrite history. They just ensure you never read the original and listen to their language. In coronation speeches, in anniversaries, there are phrases repeated like a mantra: servant of the sacred duty, guardian of the truth. You think those are just empty, flowery words? Think again. In the public rule of the Knights Templar, they had 3 vows: poverty, chastity, and obedience. Everyone knows that. But in the inner order, the secret core that few dare to mention, a different triad rules: secrecy, service, and silence. Look back at Elizabeth II, a queen who lived 70 years in the public eye, the most photographed person in history. Yet what do we really know about her? Her thoughts? Her true feelings? Nothing. She was a sealed fortress. That is not a contradiction. That is the fulfillment of the rule. Her silence was not shyness. It was the discipline of a grand master. She was not just a participant. She was the shield. Perhaps she was the final link in a chain even older than the British Empire. If you want to know what a person is hiding, don't look at what they say. Look at where they send their money and reputation. Elizabeth supported healthcare, education, that's normal. But she was also a patron of very specific organizations, specific to the point of being odd. The Royal Institute of Philosophy, the British School at Jerusalem, societies for the preservation of medieval architecture and sacred music. Why Jerusalem? Why medieval architecture? Why places that hold memory? She was always present, lending her prestigious name, but rarely explaining why. This is how the network operates, not by military hierarchy, but by a shared understanding, a decentralized network. The guardians of the Templar legacy do not take orders from a boss. They are bound by an oath, by blood. If the hypothesis about the sacred blood flowing through Elizabeth is true, then her greatest ally was not MI6 or the CIA. Her ally was time. But to understand why this silence was so necessary, we must turn back the clock, back to the fateful day that turned the Templars from the most powerful men in Europe into the hunted. Friday, October 13th, 1307, King Philip IV of France, the man history calls Philip the Fair, but whose heart was incredibly ugly, sent secret orders all across France. In one night, the church, the old friend, became the executioner. Arrest them all. Confiscate everything. Pope Clement V, a weak puppet of Philip, issued the bull. Torture, forced confessions. The bravest knights were broken on the rack. The order was dissolved in 1312. Why? Because they worshipped the demon Baphomet as accused? No, because they were too rich, too independent, and most importantly, they knew too much. There were rumors they had found something under the Temple of Solomon, a truth that could collapse both the throne and the cross. But this is where history gets interesting. Not everyone listened to the Pope. Scotland ignored the arrest order completely. Portugal renamed the order Knights of Christ and carried on as if nothing happened. And England? England hesitated. King Edward II delayed. He used the excuse of lack of evidence. The English crown seemed extremely reluctant to lay a hand on these brothers. Finally, under pressure from Rome, trials took place. But it was more like a play than a purge. Many knights were quietly released. Files were redacted or lost. The erasure of the Templars in England didn't end with blood. It ended with ink. Centuries later, during the Protestant Reformation, when Henry VIII broke from Rome, a second wave of destruction took place. Let's go to Temple Church in London, where knights rest in stone effigies, hands on swords. When the king's soldiers burst in, they didn't just steal gold. They smashed the faces on the stone statues. They wiped out the inscriptions. Officially, it was anti-Catholic iconoclasm. In reality, it was the erasure of memory. They wanted to cut the link silently running from those tombs to the Tudor dynasty. Ledgers vanished, parchments were burned, but history is like a stream of water. You can block the flow, but water will find another way. In the 19th century, when interest in the occult surged, fragments began to surface. There were people who tried to piece this puzzle together. One of them was Thomas Langford and his collection of mysterious documents. Letters, codes, genealogies hinting at a secret guardian lineage right within the British nobility. What did Langford find? We don't know. Because in 1878, he was found floating in the Thames. His house was burned to ashes. The police said, accident. Of course, a very procedural accident. The suppression didn't stop in the 19th century. Even in the 20th century, files at the British Museum and National Archives related to lineage assets and royal trusts evaporated. In 1982, a journalist asked about it. The answer, the file never existed. But they slipped up. A leaked internal memo had a chilling line: delete temple tags from real estate records. The signature was blacked out. Ladies and gentlemen, that was not the absent-mindedness of librarians. That was systematic purging. And if they were willing to burn houses, wipe ledgers to hide a lineage, then how terrifyingly powerful must that lineage be? And if that blood truly exists, it lies not only in burned documents, it lies in people. And sometimes those people leave traces. In the next part, we will follow those traces to Malta, to a forbidden letter, and the deaths that were accidentally gruesome surrounding the British royal family in the 20th century, from Diana to the fires at Windsor. Let's go to the Mediterranean, the island of Malta. 1947. Princess Elizabeth, young at the time, was enjoying her sweet honeymoon days, but Malta was not just a resort paradise. It was the old stronghold of the Knights Hospitaller, the brothers, the heirs to the spirit and structure of the Knights Templar after they were wiped out. Here, amidst the sun-scorched ruins, another ghost has risen. In the rubble of an ancient chapel, a letter was found, not a love letter, but a strange text speaking of a blood shield and a woman crowned in secret. It was never published. But in the 1960s, a brave, or rather naive, Maltese historian named Dr. G. Fujia tried to bring it to light. The result? A warning call from British authorities. Don't touch it. His publisher's office was broken into shortly after. The manuscript evaporated, not a trace left. Fujia later, with a trembling voice in a rare interview, admitted, "They told me it would embarrass the royal family. But I never wrote anything scandalous. I only wrote about things that had been forgotten." Embarrass or reveal? Look at the British royal family tree. It looks perfect, lush with branches and leaves. But if you are a genealogy expert, you will see gaping black holes, branches linked to lesser-known noble families from Scotland and Central Europe. Names like Sinclair, Montague, Dare, Neville often lead to dead ends. Estates destroyed in war, archives closed indefinitely, records lost in fires. Too many accidents for a repeating pattern. Those names flicker throughout history like ghosts. They are always there, right beside the throne, but never step into the light. Who are they? They are the guardians of the blood. And Queen Elizabeth II, with her absolute silence, was the strongest fortress wall. She never commented on these theories. That silence was not evasion. It was ritual. It was the Templar oath. What is not spoken cannot be distorted. What is not written cannot be erased. But sometimes silence is not enough. Sometimes you need fire. 1992. Elizabeth called it Annus Horribilis, the horrible year. 3 royal marriages collapsed, and a massive fire consumed Windsor Castle. The press called it an accident caused by a spotlight. But look closely at where the fire started. Queen Victoria's private chapel. Why there? A space of deep symbolic meaning, filled with Christian and royal imagery. The fire spread unusually fast, swallowing rooms the public rarely gets to see. And more importantly, what burned? A small library, a place said to contain centuries-old manuscripts, gifts from German relatives with close ties to secret societies. Their contents were never publicly cataloged. Fire wiped them out. And Windsor Castle is not just a residence, it is a reliquary. When that reliquary was threatened to be opened, fire came to seal it shut. But the most shocking event, the event that made the whole world hold its breath and suspect, was not fire. It was blood. 1997, Paris. Princess Diana. Her Spencer lineage was not upstart. They had deep aristocratic roots, even purer than the Windsors in some respects. Fringe historians whispered that the marriage of Diana and Charles was not just politics. It was a genetic merger effort, an effort to bring 2 ancient bloodlines, 2 branches of the same Templar tree back into one. William, their son, is the product of that union. But Diana was an uncontrollable variable. She was too famous. She was too independent. And most dangerously, she knew too much. In private tapes never officially released, Diana did not call her husband's family the Royals. She called them the guardians of something ancient. What did she know? Did she intend to break the oath of silence she had unwittingly become entangled in? The accident in the Alma tunnel was full of shady points. Cameras malfunctioned at the exact right moment. Witness testimonies changed. The driver's blood sample was disputed. The body was flown back to England suspiciously fast. No full independent autopsy. They say she died in a traffic accident. But in the world of secret societies, the death of a disruptor is often camouflaged by randomness. Diana had become a threat to the survival of the secret, and its self-defense system activated. Not just Diana. Look at Princess Margaret, the Queen's sister. Her love for Group Captain Peter Townsend was forbidden. Official reason: he was divorced. Real reason: some believe Townsend's bloodline was not of sufficient grade. It threatened the purity required for those standing near the throne. Margaret was sacrificed. Her spirit withered to protect that structure. And then we have Charles, now King Charles III. In 2005, he married Camilla. Where did the blessing take place? St. George's Chapel. Again, the sanctuary of the Order of the Garter. Again, the place of the Templars. Charles is obsessed with sacred geometry, Islamic architecture, and ancient traditions. He is not just a modern king. He is a student of mysticism. His marriage might be a reordering, an anointing for the continuation of the invisible tradition. All the deaths, the weddings, the fires, they are not disjointed. They are links in an iron chain, tightening around the monarchy's greatest secret. But carrying a secret like that has a price. A psychological price. A price on the soul. If Queen Elizabeth really was the living Holy Grail, the holder of the final Templar legacy, then she paid with her entire life to transform into a symbol. And now that she is gone, what will happen? Imagine having to carry something heavy your whole life, not on your shoulders, but in your mind. 2011. A scholar at the Royal Archives stumbled upon a black hole, a sealed ledger, misplaced among 18th century files. Inside, no names, only coded symbols, dates, secret ceremonies at estates linked to Freemasonry. Before he could scream, "Eureka!" he was transferred. The file evaporated. A cold note appeared in the British Library catalogue. Access restricted pending review by royal authority. What was in there? A list of guardians? A map to treasure? Or more terrifying, a bloodline chart? Forget Hollywood movies. The Holy Grail that the Knights Templar protected may never have been the wooden cup Jesus used at the Last Supper. In Old French, Sangreal, Holy Grail, is very easily misread as Sangreal. Translated, it means royal blood. This is the most dangerous theory of all time, that the Grail is not an object. It is a lineage, a sacred bloodline running from Jerusalem through France, fleeing persecution, and finally merging into European noble lines. Names like Sinclair, Stuart, Merovingian, they are not just aristocrats, they are living vessels, and the Windsor family, with its intricate web of marriages, stands at the downstream of that river of blood. If this is true, then Queen Elizabeth II was not just the head of state, she was a living ark. Look at her again through this lens. In apocryphal Templar texts, a figure is mentioned, Regina Templi, Queen of the Temple. She wears no armor, she holds no sword, her weapon is silence. Her mission is not conquest, but preservation. Elizabeth II lived that role completely. She avoided noisy politics. She refused to modernize core rituals. She insisted on keeping chaplains with strange theological backgrounds. She patronized the restoration of ruined Templar chapels. Her stillness, her stoic discretion, that was not personality. That was training. That was the burden of someone who knew she carried within her a legacy born in Jerusalem, forged in fire, and to be protected at all costs. She was the Grail. The Grail represents wholeness and stability, and in a century where the world collapsed, she still stood there, immutable. September 2022, the Queen passes away. The whole world mourns a monarch, but in the shadows, those who know are holding their breath. Her departure is not just the end of a reign, it is the closing of a long, sealed chapter. The biggest question now is, who will shoulder it next? Will it be Charles III? The man obsessed with ancient symbols, who married at the Templar sanctuary? Or is it William, the grandson carrying the Spencer blood, a bloodline believed to be the missing piece to complete the Sangreal picture? William once spoke of the necessity to preserve sacred things. A social pleasantry? Or an implicit vow? We may never find a document stamped with confirmation. Yes, we are the Templars. Smart people don't leave paperwork. The Templar legend survived not by armies, but by becoming a story, an idea, and ideas cannot be killed. If that legacy truly flows in royal veins, then their greatest ally is not a secret society. It is your skepticism. You will laugh and say this is fiction, and that is exactly what they want. History is not intact, my friend. It is full of scars, torn pages, and redacted lines. Elizabeth II might have been the last link of the old world, or she was just the one passing the torch to a new era, quieter, deeper. What did he speak of? Of a royal descendant soon to appear, a woman who would bring the fire of ancient wisdom back. He wrote, "She will be crowned with stars, but her feet will only walk on stone." Sounds like a fairy tale to lull the gullible to sleep, right? Scholars call it a metaphor, but me, I call it a blueprint. In the most closed occult circles, this prophecy is not about an abstract concept. It speaks of a bloodline, a woman born of title but ruling by memory. Some say she has arrived, some say she has gone. And there are those like me who believe she is still walking among us, not in flesh and bone, but through the invisible legacies she left behind. We are talking about Elizabeth, but don't look at her laws or diplomatic handshakes. That is the tip of the iceberg. The true impact of the Elizabethan era must be measured by myth, by that creepy feeling when you realize something sacred has just passed by. Indescribable in words, but its weight presses on your chest. The Holy Grail. If it is real, do you think it is a shiny gold cup waiting for Indiana Jones to find? No. It is meant to be carried, and in 70 years of reign, perhaps she did exactly that. Put your hand out. Don't be shy. I want you to imagine running your fingers along the cold edge of a stone slab at Windsor. It is older than the castle surrounding it, older than the prayers in the chapel above. Suddenly, your palm stops. A depression, very slight, almost like smoke, but undeniably present. A rose, 5 petals, and at its center, a dot. You pull your hand back, don't you? But that shape is stuck in your mind. Where have you seen it? On the magnificent coronation robe? On the ceiling of a majestic cathedral? Or on a rusty coin buried under the royal garden? It beckons you, like a vague memory from a dream you cannot name. Symbols, my friend, are always the language of those who cannot, or dare not, speak publicly. And who are the masters of this game? The Knights Templar. They lived in a world of codes and blood oaths. They didn't leave textbooks for us to study. No, they left star-shaped cathedrals. They left the Red Cross, balanced, steadfast, appearing in the oddest places, not just on shields, but hidden under the stone floors you walk on, in vibrant stained glass shards, and in the folds of royal attire. The Order of the Temple was dissolved, hunted, burned alive. But their symbols? They clung on like fingerprints at a crime scene. And as centuries passed, those fingerprints began to appear in a place no one expected, right on the throne of England. The British royal family, a symbol of stability, tradition, and boredom, right? That is what they want you to think. They surround themselves with a system of symbols so dense that we become blind to them. But today, put your glasses on and look closely. Look at the coronation. Look at the sovereign's orb, a golden sphere with a cross on top. History books say it symbolizes Christ's dominion over the world. Logical. But look closely at the band of jewels encircling it. It reflects exactly the Templar description of the universe, a sphere encompassed by divine order and sacred geometry. And the sword of offering. The hilt is not just decoration, it bears rose patterns and vines curling into hexagons. Hexagons? That is a reflection of the seal of Solomon, an ultimate sacred symbol in Templar and Jewish mystical tradition. Why would a sword of a Christian nation bear the mark of Solomon's magic? That's not all. Go to the coronation chair, carved since 1296. Beneath it is the Stone of Scone, the Stone of Destiny. In the 1950s, when this stone was moved for repairs, or so they said, restorers found something that chilled them to the bone. Not cracks, not vandalism by hooligans, but intentional carvings. A star, a hand, a spiral. They were never officially published, but photos still exist in quiet collections. These symbols are identical, I repeat, identical, to those found at Rosslyn Chapel, the mecca of Templar conspiracy theories. What did they do then? They put the stone back, they restored the chair, and silence covered it again. A deafening silence. Let's leave London and go to Windsor. You are bending down, looking at a carved banister. Just below eye level, where few notice, is a rose pierced by a sword. It's that again. The rose and the sword. The same motif on Templar tombstones. The same motif in secret chapels. And this is where things get chillingly interesting. In 1985, Queen Elizabeth attended the Garter ceremony. She wore the traditional blue velvet robe. But look at old photos. Zoom in on her sleeve. A faint embroidery, almost invisible. Vines intertwining to form a circular knot surrounding a 5-pointed star. A pentagram on the robe of the Queen of England? To some, it is the wound of Christ. To the paranoid, it is the mark of the devil. But to the Knights Templar and fringe researchers, the pentagram is a map. Not a treasure map, but a spiritual compass. It points not north, south, east, west. It points inward, toward the one holding the memory. She didn't wear it to show off. She wore it as a signal for those who know how to read. And at Balmoral Castle, where she drew her last breath, the gardens were not planted randomly. They are labyrinths, geometric paths, spirals, cross shapes. There is even a rose labyrinth whose purpose no one can explain. At Sandringham, the tiled floor of her private chapel has a pattern. 2 interlaced circles within a square, surrounded by 8 triangles. Do you know where this figure is? It is carved on the ceiling of the chapter house at Temple Church in London, the old Templar headquarters. And strangest of all, in the Queen's private sitting room in Scotland, there is a stained glass window. A knight standing beside a woman beneath a sky of 7 stars. Artist? Anonymous. Date of installation? Not recorded. Is it a coincidence? Do you believe that the most powerful woman in the world, who controlled every tiniest detail of her image, let these symbols appear accidentally? Or are these cold, calculated choices? And if they were choices, then who or what guided her? We are only just scratching the surface of the rock. What lies beneath the dust of time is much darker and deeper than you imagine. Like any language, it has grammar, it has rhythm, and it has curses. When an image is repeated enough times, it is no longer a drawing. It becomes a command, a warning, or a genealogical map. Let's talk about the crescent moon beneath the cross. In catechism books, they tell you it is the symbol of the Virgin Mary, Marian. Sounds holy and safe, right? But open the dusty books of alchemy. There, this symbol is the sign of hidden truth protected by divine light. 1969. The whole world was glued to TV screens watching the investiture of Prince Charles as Prince of Wales. A grand event. But look at Queen Elizabeth's chest. She wore a brooch. What shape? A cross placed upon a crescent shape surrounded by pearls. Why that symbol? On that exact day? No explanation was given. Not a single line of press release. The silence. It is always the loudest answer. Whose power was she asserting? The British Monarchy's? Or that of an older order, where she was the keeper of the flame? Now come with me into St. George's Chapel. Don't make noise. The air here is thick with the smell of cold stone and half-burnt wax. Look up at the ceiling. Stone fans bloom like giant flowers. Every curve is pure mathematics. Every arch aligns so perfectly it's breathtaking. But look at the east wall, its center. A red cross, so faint that if you blink, you will miss it. Below is the Latin inscription, Dear Amo. And behind it, oh, this is what keeps me awake at night. Carved, not painted, and almost erased by time, are the ghostly outlines of 3 roses. Unmarked. No tourist signs. Why hide them? If Elizabeth really was the heir to something older than the monarchy, let's assume the Templar legacy, then her world would not be filled with glaring neon signs. It would be echoes. She wouldn't stand at a podium and shout into a microphone, "Hey, I carry the Grail blood." No. What would she do? She would walk through corridors shaped like pentagrams. She would pray under ceilings painted with roses. She would stroll in gardens designed like labyrinths. She would remember, and she would force us to find the answer ourselves. They say, the path to truth cannot be spoken in words, it must be traced. So let's trace it, from cold stone slabs to computer screens of the 21st century. The past doesn't stay quiet in the grave, my friends. Sometimes it rises from the dead, not as a zombie, but as data, genetic code, DNA. 2014. A documentary about the Plantagenet kings dropped a bomb on historians. They found the remains of King Richard III. Where? Under a parking lot in Leicester. Yes, a king of England lay under where people parked Toyotas and Fords. Life is ironic. But the real shock wasn't the parking lot, it was in the lab. Mitochondrial DNA test results showed a shocking thing. There was a paternity break. To put it simply in street language, somewhere in the royal family tree, Daddy's child was actually not Daddy's child. What does this mean? Someone in the official lineage was illegitimate. The bloodline was broken. The throne, biologically speaking, might have been given to the wrong person. This story was dismissed very quickly. Shh, don't make a fuss. But to skeptics like me, it confirms a whisper that has existed for centuries. Not all bloodlines are what they seem, and this is where conspiracy theory becomes obsession. With the explosion of home DNA testing, noble families began quietly sending samples. The results? Most were buried under thick non-disclosure agreements, but whispers still leaked out through the cracks. Reports of anomalies, traces of Levantine, Middle Eastern, ancestors appearing in the purest British noble lineages. Why is there Middle Eastern DNA in the ancient British aristocracy? Connection to whom? Perhaps the Knights Templar who were stationed in Jerusalem? The hypothesis posed is, if the Grail bloodline is real, it doesn't pass through the noisy kings on the throne. It passes through the maternal line, mitochondrial DNA. It hides. It is protected by silent women. And at the same time, pop culture went crazy for the Templars. The Da Vinci Code, national treasure. We think it is entertainment. I think it is the rise of cultural memory. One image keeps repeating. The true royal bloodline is being protected in the shadows, hidden from the public eye for fear of what it could change. It's easy to smirk and say, "Zorro, you watch too many movies." But symbols don't lie. And when King Charles III was crowned in 2023, those symbols returned blatantly. – 2023. King Charles III ascended the throne. While the press was busy discussing who was invited, who was snubbed, the hawk eyes of symbologists were glued to the threads. Look at the robe, not the old robe from the museum. Look at the newly updated embroidery. Stars, spiraling vines, roses. Look familiar? If you have ever stepped foot in a ruined Templar church in southern France, you would feel a chill down your spine. The resemblance is so eerie, it cannot be a coincidence. And wait, look at the woman beside him. Queen Camilla. She wore a circular brooch for a brief moment. It was never explained. But compare it to 15th century woodcuts found at Rosslyn Chapel, the Mecca of the Da Vinci Code. A perfect match. Small things, quiet things, but the pattern just keeps repeating like a scratched vinyl record. Click, click, click. But if Charles is the present, then his mother, Elizabeth, has become an eternal symbol. 2024. 1 year after she died, an official portrait was released. It is not like the Queen smiling and waving paintings you often see on souvenir mugs. This painting is melancholic, radiant, and haunting. She sits there, looking down, hand resting on a carved stone armrest. Behind her is a stained glass window, and in it, hovering in the void, a single red rose lying at the base of a sword. Above it is a star. What did the artist say? It symbolizes sacrifice and duty. Sounds touching and safe. But those who know how to read this language see something else. Rose and sword, the mark of Templar legend. 5-pointed star, spiritual map. That is not a tribute. That is a declaration. That she was the guardian of the truth. That she protected the divine feminine right in the heart of a patriarchy. And then we have the coincidences. Do you believe in coincidences? I don't, especially when it involves the number 13. The cursed number. Why? Because on Friday, October 13th, 1307, the arrest order for the Knights Templar was issued. They were burned alive, tortured. That day marked the fall of the order. Now, look at the reign of Elizabeth II. During her reign, there were exactly 13 major fires at royal properties. Not 10, not 15. It was 13. There were 13 official foreign visits canceled without public explanation. And creepiest of all, in the final year of her life, the number 13 appeared densely in press releases, document dates. To ordinary people, it is bad luck. To symbologists, 13 is the number of transformation, the shift from the visible to the hidden, from a flesh and blood queen to a queen of legend. We are living in the digital age. You think secrets only lie in crypts? Mistake. They are floating on the cloud. 2022. An anonymous online archive appeared in a flash. Its name, Red Queen Files. It existed for exactly a few days. What was inside? Scans of decaying letters, blurry black and white photos, documents allegedly intercepted from the royal archives. People found strange phrases, guardians of the blood, shadow chapel, and a haunting sentence. She wore the cross in silence. Boom. The website disappeared. The domain was bought by a shell company and sealed forever. Red Queen? Elizabeth was rarely associated with bright red. But in the occult world, red represents hidden royalty, the rose that bleeds but never blooms to reveal its center. Disinformation, or a deliberate leak. Either way, that name has embedded itself in the subconscious of the internet. And then, science stepped in. 2025. A university research team, people with proper degrees, not guys wearing tinfoil hats, published a shocking paper. Subject: Genetic symbolic communication in the British aristocracy. Sounds boring, right? But the content was explosive. They discovered that motifs like stars, roses, swords were not just decoration. They repeated through generations, in letters, seals, architecture, following a rule that traditional heraldry could not explain. What was their conclusion? These patterns suggest a sacred narrative embedded implicitly within secular tradition. In other words, there is an undercurrent of memory flowing through the centuries, and Elizabeth II, with her steadfast silence, with her unwavering role, was not just a monarch. She was the last visible carrier. The long shadow of the Templar Temple has stretched all the way to 2025, not through loud manifestos, but through intuition, through the feeling that beneath the noise of TikTok and Twitter, there is still an echo of sacred duty. Do you feel it? The inherited silence, a bloodline passed on, not by proclamation, but by choice. And if you feel it, it is not because I am telling you, but because deep in your DNA you already know. But there are things history dares not answer, things that have disappeared. We have talked about roses on stone, stars on robes, but the deeper we go down this rabbit hole, the more we realize a terrifying thing. The truth does not lie in what is displayed in museum glass cases. It lies in the gaps, the sealed files, the erased names. Let's start with things that vaporized. 1936, Cambridge. At the Round Church, a notorious site believed to be a secret meeting place for medieval Templars. Workers were renovating when clang, their shovels hit metal. A lead box, buried right under the altar. What was inside? Rotting pieces of parchment and a thin slate. Carved on it was a faded image, a rose imprisoned within a cross. What happened next? According to procedure, it should be taken to a museum, studied by silver-bearded professors, right? Wrong. It disappeared. The British Museum? We never received it. The Cambridge Historical Society? Don't know. Didn't see it. The last man to see it, an archaeologist named Finch, left a single line in his diary. It bears the seal of silence. No wonder it vanished. And Mr. Finch? He died 2 years later. All his notes were burned in an accidental fire. Coincidence? Yet another coincidence. But that is old news. Let's talk about the digital age, where we assume everything is transparent. Don't be so naive. Try knocking on the door of the royal archives at Windsor Castle. There are areas marked as forbidden territory, files sealed until 2050, some sealed indefinitely, forever. Scholars have begged on their knees to see the diaries of Queen Mary, Elizabeth II's grandmother. Why do they crave it so much? Because there are rumors she wrote about guardianship, about a lady's code, and something called the bloodgate. The result? Access denied. No reason given. And here is our smoking gun. In the online catalog of the UK National Archives, there exists a digital ghost, file number 174B. Its title, Royal Lineage Connection, Templar Fiefs. You click on it. The screen flashes red text, restricted for national interest. National interest? What does a piece of land from the 14th century have to do with national security in 2026? Unless that land is not just land, but evidence. Evidence of a connection that history would rather cut out its own tongue than admit. And it's not just objects that disappear. People disappear too. Eleanor Ramsden, a name you won't find on Wikipedia. In the 1930s, she was the only person allowed to rummage through private royal libraries. She found something. In her final article, she wrote a chilling sentence. There is an unbroken line, hidden in plain sight, but never claimed. After that, she stopped writing. No obituary, no grave. Her collection of notes was auctioned anonymously and never resurfaced. What did she see that forced her into silence, or silenced her? And then, 1981, Balmoral Castle. A former employee swore that while repairing water pipes, they found a secret passage. At the end of the tunnel was a sealed door, no royal crest, only a simple carving, 2 interlocking rings and a 5-petaled rose. It matched perfectly with Templar tombs in France. What happened? The passage was filled in overnight. That employee was fired. Crazy accusations were thrown out to smear him. Silence was reestablished. But the biggest secret perhaps lies right in front of billions of people without anyone realizing it. The Coronation Bible. In 1953, when Elizabeth placed her hand on it to take the oath, it wasn't an ordinary book bought at a bookstore. It was heavily annotated. In 2004, an anonymous historian revealed that running along the inner spine of that Bible was a carved code, letters and numbers spiraling into each other. What does it say? No one knows. Because immediately after that revelation, the Bible was placed under special royal protection, double-locked. No one is allowed to study it further. What are they hiding in the kingdom's most sacred book? A prophecy or a list of names? We are left with silence. And silence, my friend, is an invitation for questions. What happens if Elizabeth II was not the end? What happens if she was the final veil before the truth is exposed? Look at her funeral. When the coffin was lowered into the vault, it is said that a single personal item was placed with her. A letter? A Templar ring? No one knows. But in an ancient crypt in Norfolk, there is a stone slab carved with the words, "The oath is remembered, 1684. Elizabeth remembered. Her whole life was an act of remembrance. She was not the creator of history. She was the vessel containing it, a living Holy Grail. When the Templars were destroyed in 1307, they lost gold, they lost land, but they didn't lose knowledge of sacred geometry, of bloodlines, of protection. It went underground. It lived in silence. And Elizabeth, she embodied that silence more completely than anyone. She didn't need to say, "I am a descendant." She just needed to walk on star-shaped floors. She just needed to wear the rose on her chest. She just needed to stand there, steadfast as a rock amidst the rushing current of the times. They used tools shaped according to symbolic geometry, rulers, compasses, and chisels based on ancient cathedral diagrams. Why? For aesthetics? Don't be so naive. In the world of secret societies, nothing is just for looks. Every angle, every curve is a language. Was it the superstition of old workmen? A remnant ritual from the Middle Ages? Or was it a remembrance encoded in action, a final message carved where only the dead would read it? We, modern humans with heads full of data, are always frantically looking for proof. Documents, fingerprints, surveillance video. But perhaps in this case, proof is the most useless thing. You cannot use a microscope to examine a soul, and you cannot use a tape recorder to catch an oath that has existed for centuries. Maybe what matters is the whisper. Do you feel it? That chill on the back of your neck when you stand alone in an ancient church? The feeling that somewhere in the stillness, amidst those cold rocks, something real is waiting to be heard. Look at her. Don't look at the crown. Don't look at the scepter. Look at her silence. Her entire life was a performance of absolute control. We think it was royal protocol, but what if it was a form of camouflage? This story is not about domination. The British Empire disintegrated right before her eyes, and she let it go. No, this is a story about guardianship, about a woman who sought not power, but shouldered a responsibility so heavy it forced her to lock her mouth shut. She kept a silence so complete it became a form of protection. Protecting what? And protecting it from whom? Imagine for a moment, just 1 second, that the greatest truth of her reign was never meant to be spoken on the BBC or written in a memoir, that the truth was meant to be felt, to be perceived, to be passed down like a breath between generations from gatekeeper to gatekeeper, without a single legal document. That Elizabeth, with her steady but wordless gaze, was not just playing the role of a constitutional monarch, she was a shell. And inside that shell was a memory too sacred for human words. We have been taught to look for loud revelations, scandals, sensational news, tell-all books, but perhaps the oldest truths, the things that truly drive the wheels of history, resist that noise. They hate the spotlight. They thrive in quiet, in contemplation, and in stone. And in that silence, memory lives on. Not every legacy needs a grand monument. Do you think the pyramids are monuments? Or are they stone time machines? Some legacies need only a loyal voice, or perhaps need nothing at all. Just a stone circle, a rose on the edge of a chapel, a star reflected in stained glass, or a woman sitting quietly, wearing a brooch whose true meaning no one can name. The Templar tradition. The name makes you shudder, right? Or makes you laugh thinking of Hollywood action movies. But if it truly still exists, it will never hold a press conference. It does not demand recognition. It does not need likes or subscribes. It waits. It walks beside the world, parallel to us, but never in it. It is like your shadow, always there, but you can never catch it. It protects what should not be controlled by the mob. Memory, bloodline, ancient wisdom, and perhaps, just perhaps, that is what Elizabeth carried in her famous black handbag. Not lipstick or a handkerchief, but the weight of a secret. Not a crown, not an empire, but the whisper of something older. Older than St. Edward's chair. Older than the kings we read about in textbooks. When that lead-lined oak coffin passed through the castle gates, the whole world thought they were witnessing the end of an era. TV commentators spoke of the changing of the monarchy, Newspapers ran headlines about Britain after Elizabeth. They were dead wrong. They saw an old woman pass away. I saw a door close and another crack just opening. The million-dollar question here is, was Elizabeth II the end of a line, or the last guardian of it? We may never know for sure. The royal secret documents are guarded better than nuclear launch codes. And perhaps we are not meant to know in the conventional way. But listen to the silence she left behind. It is not empty. It is dense. Something is still moving in the shadows. An echo. A rule. An oath that survived fire and steel through revolutions that beheaded kings and the collapse of empires where the sun never set. This legacy does not walk out in front of the world to receive applause. It walks right behind, lurking in the shadows of history. It is still listening, still waiting. Waiting for what? Waiting for the moment when this story is no longer history in a textbook, but starts becoming your story. That's right, I'm talking to you. Don't look behind you. Not in the sense of ownership. You won't inherit Balmoral Castle, don't dream, but responsibility. Because stories like this, silent, enduring, hidden under centuries of quiet, they don't exist randomly like mushrooms after rain. They endure because someone listened, because someone followed the echoes instead of plugging their ears, and because someone, perhaps like you, chose not to turn away when they saw the anomalies. The trail we are following, through stones and symbols, through monarchs and myths, through whispers woven into coronation robes and strange rituals, it does not end in a tomb at Windsor. It didn't vanish with Elizabeth II's last breath. She was just the torchbearer on a long journey. When the torch was lowered, the fire didn't go out. It spread. It continues. And it awaits the curious, the reverent, the seekers. Be honest with me. When watching old footage, when looking at Gothic architecture full of stone gargoyles, do you feel something stir along your spine? A silent pull? A chill behind the veil of history? That's not a draft. That is recognition. This story is not just about the past. It is about inheritance, but not inheriting land or the title of duke. What you inherit is much heavier. Questions, and a responsibility passed hand to hand. No notarized documents, no lawyer reading a will. This inheritance comes through recognition, recognizing a rule too ancient to name, yet too familiar to forget. It lies in our spiritual DNA. Elizabeth carried a great silence throughout her 70-year reign. Those before her, kings, knights, temple architects, did the same. They kept their mouths shut tight to protect the flame. And perhaps now, in the quiet between questions, when the world is noisily arguing about politics and money, it has arrived, and it is stopping right next to you. Do you dare to accept it, or will you let it pass like a morning news bulletin? Let me tell you this, you don't need a crown to be part of the story. You just need to open your eyes. But look up. The same sky is curving over your head. The same stars. Yes, those damn stars. That once guided Knights Templar across deserts, once illuminated solitary queens in ivory towers, are now shining through your bedroom window. Masons, scribes, sacred orders. They didn't look up at the sky for the view. They looked to download a blueprint. And guess what? You have access to that same server too. Look at these things, the rose, the cross, the circle, the sword. We walk past them in museums, take a selfie, and scroll on. We think they are antiques, corpses of the past. Mistake. Their message is not for admiration. They are the QR codes of ancient times. They were left to be read. Because there is always someone following. Even when the path is covered in dust, buried under tabloids or drowned out by car horns and Facebook notifications. There is always someone following, not because they are forced. No one is holding a gun to your head forcing you to learn about the Templars or the British Monarchy. You do it because you feel called. There is something in the rhythm of the past. Tick-tock, tick-tock, still moving quietly right under the shiny veneer of the 21st century. And people like you, the misfits in this modern world, you understand that silence is not oblivion. It is guarding. This is an invitation for you, not from me. This guy Zorro is just the messenger, not from any Illuminati organization, but from that invisible bond itself. You don't need a PhD in history to walk this path. Throw those degrees away. What you need is reverence, patience, and most importantly, the willingness to look a second time where others only glance once and walk away. Ask yourself, why have you watched until this minute? Why does the story of an old queen and mysterious crypts matter so much to you? Is it just cheap curiosity, or is it something deeper, an echo in your own blood, a genetic memory awakening? You feel it, right? Intuition tells you that something has been quietly preserved through time, waiting for you to recognize it. You are not alone. Across the world, people are waking up. They don't travel to check in anymore. They go on pilgrimages to the past. They touch carvings and feel electricity at their fingertips. They seek meaning, not status. When you see Elizabeth sitting there, hands clasped, eyes looking into the void, you don't just see an old lady. You see a guardian. She is carrying a truth that cannot yet be spoken in words, a truth older than the heavy crown on her head. And if this story is still breathing, it is because you are listening. The trail didn't break when she died. It just changed shape. Knights of old wore iron armor, and you wear awareness. You carry questions instead of swords. You seek not to rule the world. You seek to remember, and be careful. Once you start seeing, you won't be able to close your eyes again. A symbol on a doorway, a recurring number, a coincidence so chilling. Those are not hallucinations. Those are echoes. They are calling you. You are waking up to a lineage of seekers. Welcome to the club. But remember, the membership card here isn't free. The price is your peace of mind. Ready to pay the price? In this 5G world, speed is king, right? But here, in the Garden of Memory, speed is the killer of truth. Look back at the old books your grandparents left behind. Stand still in the ruins. Don't rush to pull out your phone to check in. Let the stone walls talk to you before you try to Google who built them. Light a candle. Not because you are superstitious or want to pray to win the lottery. Light it for resonance. The hidden bloodline, the thing we have chased through the previous 3 parts, if it truly exists, it doesn't lie in 23 and me gene maps. It lives wherever remembrance still exists. Don't let the skepticism of materialists stop you. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Leave the proving to lawyers and textbook historians. This is about preservation. It is about learning to listen to a language lying deep beneath history, the language of silence, of signs, of sacred understanding without words. Once you start hearing it, you will see it everywhere, in strange recurring dreams, in the intuition telling you to turn left instead of right, in the way your breath pauses for a beat when you hear certain names, Templar, Magdalene, Stuart, Windsor, in the way silence seems to stretch longer in some places than others. The past lies not behind us. Humanity's biggest mistake is thinking time is a straight line. It runs parallel, right beneath the surface, And Elizabeth II? She didn't close that great history book, she simply placed a bookmark. And now, who is the person turning the next page? Not Charles, not William, not by royal decree, but by curiosity, by you. It doesn't matter what you find. What matters is that you seek, because the act of seeking is how the sacred endures. Inheritance is not always gold or castles. Some legacies are buried under centuries of dust. Others are carved into stone. But the rarest things, the most dangerous things, live in the in-between spaces, between knowing and not knowing, between blood and symbol. We have come very far on this path. And now, the most brutal question must be asked. What have you truly inherited? Listen closely. Legacy, when stripped of all crowns and velvet robes, is actually about transformation. Just as fire does not destroy wood, it transforms wood into light, heat, and finally ash. Truth is the same. It passes through silence not to disappear, but to be reborn in another form. Queen Elizabeth II may be the last guardian of a shadowed bloodline in the old style, but her role was not to end the story. She carried it as far as possible through world wars, through the collapse of empires, and then she quietly set it down. For whom to pick up? Someone like you. What the Knights Templar encoded in stone, what the royals preserved in ritual, those are not museum relics. Those are seeds. And what do seeds need? Soil. You are the soil. Right now, this noisy world needs that quiet wisdom more than ever. But legacy does not stand still. It shifts. It adapts. It becomes stronger or fades away based on the hands that hold it next. That power of interpretation belongs to you. When you light a candle in the dark, when you kneel in an old church without saying a word, when you run your fingertips over carvings and feel time stop, you are not reenacting history, you are continuing it. So what is your transformation? What shape will the echo take in your life? Perhaps it is protecting forgotten stories. Perhaps it is refusing to let the truth vanish, or simply knowing that some things are true because they endure, despite all efforts to erase them. Elizabeth II stood as a monument to endurance. She stayed not because she commanded it, but because she represented a memory that refused to be erased. And silence, when kept faithfully, becomes justice. Not the justice of courts, but the justice of remembrance. Justice in slow motion. Do you feel it? The weight on your shoulders? That is the meaning of inheriting a legacy like this. Not to rule, but to be worthy. The role of the guardian did not end when the Queen died. It just changed personnel. It begins with your small actions. Listening where others talk over. Defending stories that have no defense lawyers. Honoring without demanding, guarding without possessing. Old empires have fallen. Great orders have dissolved. But the sacred has never disappeared. It adapted. And now it lies in your hands. Not with noisy ceremony, but with deadly silence. Will the echo end with you? Or will it transform through you? The stone slabs in the Windsor crypt have been sealed. The Queen is gone. But the story is still breathing. Gently. Right inside your chest. You are carrying the fire right now. Don't let the wind blow it out.